All right, welcome everybody. This is Herbert on Tesla Today. So thank you for joining us. I've not done this in a long time, but today we have breaking news from very good sources and an article that was written yesterday. Looks like that Tesla is in the process of buying a wireless charging company called Wiferion. This is going to help Tesla's electric vehicles and also the bots to be able to have charging done without needing a cord. So we've got Brian White joining us today. Brian is a host of his own YouTube channel called MyTeslaWeekend. And he and I have been doing this on a regular basis. So we're going to go and dig deep into this, into the story here. I think this is pretty serious and a pretty big deal for Tesla. So many good news also beyond this one story. We've got a number to talk about Elon's discussion with the Indian Prime Minister. We're going to talk about more partnerships with superchargers and another big giant deal for Tesla Megapack. So let's get started with that. Welcome, Brian. Thank you for joining me.
So great to be here, Herbert. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad we could make this work.
This is going to be fun, a lot of fun. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and present this. Sorry, guys, just a little bit too excited today. Okay, here we go. Boom. All right. So this morning, or actually from yesterday, there was an article that came out that is Tesla buying this startup from Freiburg, Germany. Tesla in process of buying Wiferion, which is a wireless charger. So how do we know that this is potentially real? Let me get to that. But right now, this is a mock-up of what this could look like, right? So instead of you having to come up and plug your charger into your cars, whether it's at home or at superchargers, as soon as you drive up, it will start charging. And I've actually seen that it says it'll start charging within like 1 second. So this is the article that was written. I had to translate it from German, and it says the electric car giant Tesla is said to be interested in buying Wiferion. This emerges from a record in the commercial register, and that record says the shareholders intend to sell their shares in the company to Tesla by means of a purchase agreement. When asked by, I guess, the news organization, two of the investors in a startup confirmed that an exit had taken place without naming a name. Now, in addition to this article, I had also been given some information from a source I can't share that has confirmed that this is a done deal. So that's the only reason why I'm bringing it up today, because I feel like this was a pretty strong proof here that this is very, very highly likely. So this Wiferion was founded in 2016, and they're developing an inductive charging system for electric vehicles and robots. The charging stations have been in the market since 2018, and according to the company, 8,000 have been sold to industrial companies, to companies' customers as well. And then the article continues to say that this conceivably used in the factories for the robots. So it's something that makes sense. We'll talk about it, but that will be very interesting because you certainly don't want to need to plug your robots in, and it'll save so much time. So this is a tweet that was sent out by JPR007. I think it was either this morning or yesterday. So he hinted at this already, saying that, telling us what Wiferion is. And this is where I saw it. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. You can see that it's like, as long as you drive over this pad here, fast charging process starts in less than 1 second. Whoa. So Brian, what do you think? How big of a deal could this be?
Could be huge. Could be absolutely huge. The first thing to think of is, Elon has said repeatedly, inductive charging, not interested. There's an efficiency loss, and but that doesn't mean it's not the right solution in some situations. And I can think of quite a few where it would be helpful. The 1 second charging activation, I don't think that would include the time it takes for the handshake with the network. I think that's because this is for industrial applications. They have a lot of forklift chargers, for example. What a great way to charge your forklift. You just park it. When you're not using it, it's charging. You don't have to think about it. It's just charged. So for things like that, the efficiency is worth more than the extra electrons you might have lost in inefficiencies. But why not just make it yourself? I mean, inductive charging is nothing new. Wouldn't it be easier for Tesla to make it themselves? And the answer pretty clearly is these guys have some secret sauce. They've got something special that gives them an efficiency advantage, because they could spool up something like this themselves within a year if they wanted to. But their engineering talent is pretty tapped out right now. There's only so many engineers you can assign to a project, and they've got everybody good that they can reasonably onboard in the time available. So Wiferion's got manufacturing capacity today. They've got patents today. They've got production today. So it's all, in that regard, it makes sense. And then the only question is, how much did it cost? It's not a very big company. It's probably a rounding error in terms of how many shares are outstanding. And when you buy something with stock, what you're actually doing is not paying for it, because whatever you buy, you get that value. So if you paid 30 million for Wiferion, you would have 30,000 more value on your books, or 30 million. You get the idea.
Nice. Let's take a look at their website, learn more about what they're doing. So I'm going to scroll down the website. Tell me if you're seeing things properly here. So
looks good.
Yeah, you can sort of see in the background, there's this thing. What are they driving here? This is so this thing can be driven and parked anywhere, anywhere in the factories, it looks like. And you can even drive by it on the side, looks like. Very cool. Okay, so if we look at this for forklift and industrial trucks, right? It says here it's 93% efficiency. That's pretty awesome.
That's definitely above the average. But still, if you were to just increase everyone's power bills by 7%, they wouldn't be happy. But you get the idea. Yeah. It's still, it's a solution when the compromise is worth it. For semi trucks to just be able to just pull up and park, even for CyberTruck or Lightnings while towing, to have a larger space available with no obstacles around it to bonk into, could be a game changer for long distance towing.
Right. And then this thing, 30% less vehicles needed. I wonder what that means. I mean, obviously, because you don't need to take your truck or car, and you don't need to sit it there parking for that time that it's not being used because it's charging. It could be just less vehicles. I think they're referring to, you saw that the buses, because this is also implemented under the streets. I saw some videos of that. So while you're driving over the streets, you can be charging automatically. 3,000 watts. And down here, I thought this was quite interesting. While your robot, they really jumped on that right away. Possibilities for robotics. Lean and clean, eliminate services safe and reliable. Nothing terribly interesting there. Perfect robot as a service business. Okay, sure. But this is interesting. So weather resistant, right? One system for all voltages and charging currents. Wow. So this is pretty flexible. Under 1 second to start. We talked about that. Omnidirectional charging. Okay. That's important. My gosh, that makes it so very usable. No friction points, no cleaning needed, no sparks, no wear and tear. I'm loving it. Can you believe this? Oh my gosh. Can you believe this, Brad?
I can. I'm gonna slow you down on the idea of charging roadways, because if you think about how long you're actually over any particular stretch of road, it becomes pretty crazy to think that you would put inductive cables under even a mile of road, and at highway speed that would get you 1 minute of charge. That's pretty inefficient. But let's talk more about what they were saying is put it where the cars are. So in the boring tunnel, this would be the perfect application, because every time you pull into a stop, you get some juice. And even if you've only got 2 or 3 of the parking spots at any given terminal juiced up, the network can know which cars need those 2 or 3 spots, and they can pull into just those ones and get just the juice on the cars they need. So they wouldn't even need it in all the spots to have all of the boring tunnel vehicles essentially dispatchable 24/7. Because think it takes a minute or 2 to get in, but only 2 minutes to get to the next destination. That's a third of the time you could be on charging, and that would be absolutely critical for something like that, which is still a small application in Tesla's world, but having the ability to have obstruction-free pull-through charging for a Cybertruck or a semi would be potentially quite valuable.
Oh, I think it's very valuable. So just for the folks who are dialing in, just to get them up to speed, there's articles written yesterday, and there's some news that I received that basically confirmed that this is a done deal. And there's an article yesterday from Germany. Secret exit: is Tesla buying this startup from Freiburg? And it's a company called Wiferion, wireless charging for electric vehicles and robots. You look at the article, it says the shareholders intend to sell their shares in a company to Tesla. So this is written in a kind of an official record of the commercial register, and so it's very likely that this has happened. And what it is wireless charging. So this is a mock-up of what it could look like, where you just drive your vehicle over a certain area and you'll get wireless charging. And they also talk about it being used in robots. So very, very big deal. I think this is a much bigger deal, a huge deal. So, I mean, if we carry this forward, right, it's not just like the garage. I find in my garage, it's easy to plug it in. It's not that hard to plug it in, right?
I agree.
But what do you think about like in apartment buildings? Does it make it easier or not? Because the many apartment buildings don't have the ability for you in a parking lot to just plug it in. But if they just have one area where the electricity is being provided, and then they have all of this underground, I don't know, it might be very expensive to put in. I don't know how much digging up the ground they need to do this, right?
I think a better solution would be to put it in places where chargers would be vandalized. If you need street parking in San Francisco, I can't imagine Tesla or Electrify America or anyone really wants to put those big, expensive units out on the curb where they will be vandalized. So instead, you just put it under the ground, mark the spot clearly so everyone knows what it is. And you're not going to see vandals digging through 6 inches of concrete to get to it.
Yeah. Let's take a look at what some people from the chat saying. David saying, "Oh, that's the wrong one, David. Good morning."
Good morning, David.
So, wireless is the only way forward for robotaxi. What do you think about that comment? Is wireless the only way for robotaxi? He's right. He is absolutely right.
I would say it's not the only way. I would say it's the best way. It's the smartest way. And the bots are going to be reasonably efficient with they're not going to be huge battery hogs the way a car would be. So a 7% efficiency loss on something like that would not be a deal breaker at all. It would be quite reasonable, I think. So yeah, the only way? No, but by far the best.
Oh, I think it's a big deal, right? Because everybody was talking about, we need that snake charger thing, or you need robots to be able to be
to walk out.
That's crazy. This is simple. The robotaxi drives over a certain area and it starts charging and then leaves. There's no need. This is brilliant, Theo. You're absolutely correct. That is the case. David Huber says 93% seems too good to be true. It does, doesn't it?
It does, 93%. But if they've done their due diligence, they, ship me one and let me test it. And if it works out, it works out. I think that would be a very easy claim to verify before buying the company.
Yeah. You cannot make that claim in your website. And they say that they've already got 8,000 systems sold. So, it's pretty good. Do you know much about like 40 mm position tolerance, what that means, or 3,000 watt? Is it slow charger? How do we know?
So 40 millimeters would be 4 centimeters. So what is that, an inch? That sounds about right. So I guess what that's saying is you don't have to be exactly on it, but I don't know for sure. And what was the second question you asked?
I mean, it's 8,000 watts, it said, or sorry, 3,000 watts. And I don't know what that means.
Yeah. That would be about, what would that be? 3 amps?
Ooh, no. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Take a look at this. So, okay. Sorry, guys. Mind with me here. So it looks like
30 amps.
Yeah. So they have this thing where they basically said for this product called ETAL Link 3000, this is wireless charging with 3,000 watts, and this is inductive charging system for industrial electric vehicles and mobile robots. Then they have this one called ETAL ATA Link 12,000. So they have another one that's 12,000 watts. This is charging and storage technology. We're presenting our inductive fast charging for the first time on these pages. The solution enables the intermediate charging.
Did you want to put that on the screen?
Oh, I thought I am. Am I not? Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So first I was talking about this. This is wireless charging with 3,000 watts. That was the one we've been talking about. But they also have another product called inductive charging. So what's the difference between wireless charging and inductive charging?
I think it's the same thing, but with a different word. They both use induction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is 12,000 watts of the lithium-ion batteries of automated guided vehicles. Okay. And in industrial trucks and mobile robots. I think this might be the one where they can drive it around and position it wherever they want it to be. I don't know. So got to figure this out. Then they have a hub, software hub for monitoring your mobile robots. They're really positioning this for bots more than just electric vehicles. What do you think about that?
I think they're trying to predict the future, and their strategy has paid off for them. They know which direction Tesla's moving, and they know which way the market could be a new player in a very new market, a big player, or they could try and just do vehicles, which would be an uphill battle because you'd have to convince someone to either put them on their cars, and then what would they do? They'd buy you out. So I guess either way, it kind of came out the same.
Yeah. This is interesting. So what they're saying here right on their homepage, this is industrial wireless charging and power solutions. But they go on to say that it's for industrial trucks, autonomous guided vehicles, and autonomous mobile robots. These are the cobots and autonomous mobile robots. But it's autonomous guided vehicles also. Yeah, go ahead.
So that would be, SeaTac Airport. You've flown through there.
Yes.
They call it a train. It's not a train. It's not on rails. It's got wheels. You could call it a subway, but it's really a bendy bus in the basement is what it is. It would be a perfect application if they didn't want to have a third rail, because if you could eliminate the third rail and just put it on batteries and have it charge every time it gets to the next station. It wouldn't even need a very big battery. So that would be an example of a solution where you've got some kind of moving thing that's essentially on rails. Even Tesla's, they could even be using this just for the skateboards that move all the cars and materials around in the factories. You've seen those. There was a video with Cal Penn where he showed the little robot coming along singing some funny song as his safety notice. But those would be perfect for it because you've seen final assembly. You see the cars come out. They're on self-propelled skateboards, and those need, I assume, charging as well. So it could even be just for that, because you have to think of how many of those they could buy today, and it would be well into the thousands for each factory.
Oh, it's going to be not just factories. This is going to be everywhere, restaurants and malls, everything. This Rich says, doesn't this add weight to the vehicles itself? Indeed, in reading a receptor of the energy seen, it does. Let me see if I can find out how much weight it is, because they do talk about that. But it doesn't look too heavy at all. Yeah.
No, and it's commensurate with the amount of power you wish to transfer at the given speeds. But think of how much weight is added to your iPhone by having an inductive charging coil. Almost none. But just like that, the closer you can get the receiver to the transmitter, the more efficiency you're going to have, which is why I wonder if they would have things like a little platform that comes up underneath your vehicle just to get it a little bit closer. Yeah, that would be something they could reasonably do as well. And since they're saying, yeah, we could do it on the sides, on the top, whatever, that makes even more possibilities available.
So I went to the product overview, and you can see the various products that we talked about. The ETA Link 3000. We talked about the ETA Link 12,000, and we showed the software that manages it all. But there's also the ETA Link 1000, most compact wireless charging. They have a variety of options. And then this forklift retrofit.
There's a comment from Bob Brown you should take a look at there. Remember the Easter egg during Investor Day? They were talking about charging, and you can see an inductive charging mat under the car.
Yeah, we pointed that out.
Yeah,
you and I pointed that out. I definitely pointed that out, and I actually showed it to Corey Steuben. Like, look closely. There's actually a mat there. Yes, we saw that. I wish I'd pulled that out ahead of time. So this DS Greg says, not public traded rats. No, but It's already bought. Tesla just bought
Already
them.
bought.
So you've got shares in Tesla. You are buying. You're going to take advantage of this. Come on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that is amazing. So let's before we jump onto other topics, I mean, this is a big deal, I think. I mean, so how much does it cost for the superchargers? I mean, that's not the reason, right? The superchargers themselves are easy. It's just another easy way to charge. You just drive up. Or does this let you, do you think that because you don't need the superchargers and you don't need the kind of the core, does that somehow let it be more flexible to be used in more places like parks? Or not really? I mean, it's just the same, right?
I'd say not really. You're still going to need the big cabinet, the big fenced off little area there with all the high voltage equipment. It would just improve the aesthetics. And really, I don't think it would end up costing more because the
Mhm.
charger, the actual rig itself is quite expensive. Just the cost of a cable long enough to reach more than just a Tesla, because now we're going to hopefully, with the adoption of NACS, which is getting wider by the day, welcome Rivian to the family. They're going to have, hopefully this means we can standardize where the plug actually goes.
Yeah.
But we shall
David asked a good question, which is, would it need some kind of driver assist to get lined up properly? So do you need to be like really right on top of this thing, or can you just be pretty far away and it'll still work? It did say, remember, I did point out earlier that it did say multi-directional. So at least that helps. It's not exactly lined up, but I do wonder if he's correct.
And
Tesla's
uniquely positioned to be able to get lined up like that. There could be indicators on the outside, and when you pull up, a notification comes up on your center screen that says, press here and I'll just get it lined up for you.
Yeah, I like this comment from Dan. Makes most sense for Optimus, the bot, because now you don't have to have massive batteries on the bot, because if they can just charge, while they're working, they could be charging, right? If they are standing on top of a charging system, they can just continuously be charged the whole time. And then they move, and then they stand over somewhere nearby, and they don't ever have to leave. They'll just be always working. That's correct. Bot feats. I see. That's interesting. Thank you, Crunch. So, how does it work for the bots, right? Because you saw somebody had mentioned earlier, for the electric vehicles, you need this massive thing. Well, it doesn't look massive, but you have to put something under the vehicle itself, and then you have the mat. But for the bot, how small is this thing? It's going to be very small, right. I guess.
It would be bigger than the one you use for your iPhone, but a tenth at most of what you would use for a car, because it doesn't need to do to move a lot of juice.
Now, why is it's interesting that, for our phones, we have wireless charging, and now we have inductive charging. So inductive charging is when you place the phone on top and actually touching the mat. That's what I think inductive is, right? Versus wireless. But the cars, my gosh, this is coming sooner. This is great. Oh. Yeah, Admiral, there is news. That's what I've been doing. I've been sharing the actual newspapers. You got to go drive a little bit earlier. Look at the video earlier. Okay. So let's move on. This is great. I think this is a massive bit of news. Let me go ahead and share that. So just for people who missed what we've been saying, just to repeat again, where we're getting this information from. So here we go. So there's this article that was written yesterday, says from Germany, secret exit is Tesla buying the startup from Freiburg. This was written yesterday. And they basically say that this emerged from a record in the commercial register, where the Wiferion, which is the company that Tesla is in the process of buying or possibly has already bought, says the shareholders intend to sell their shares in the company to Tesla International BV by means of a purchase agreement. That was an actual, kind of commercial, official paperwork that was written. And in addition to that, I have received from sources I can't name who has confirmed for me that this deal is solid and done. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't have brought this up if I didn't feel like if I didn't have this backing from this article that said this. So this is sounds like it's pretty true. And then JPR 007, he posted this morning, hinting that this is probably a deal that's on its way. So yeah, that's as much as we know. We'll see how true this is, but it does. I feel pretty strongly that this is probably a real deal.
And a couple of the comments we've got, DS Greg also said that it would be great for elderly people with disabilities might prefer wireless charging, less hassle, less fuss. And Faye is saying ambulance bay charging. And for emergency vehicles, this would be huge. Imagine a fire truck that never needs to be juiced up again. It's just always ready to go.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think, well, yeah, imagine, what is it? Imagine installing all the drive-throughs. And so that's the thing about that, right? So how fast, how much do you believe in that? Have you seen those things where they say they're going to put it into the highway and as you're driving, it's charging you? Is that really a possibility? Is that a lot? Is that enough? Or, for that 5 minutes that you're waiting in the drive-through, is that enough? I guess it is, right? Because even in the superchargers, they say that 15 minutes can get you like 80% there, right? So
sure. And now you won't complain when the drive-through moves too slow.
Exactly. Okay, that's great. That's fun. So let's move on to other giant news that happened today. So the other big one, of course, is where are we now? This one here. So this is another news. It's not huge news because you and I have reported this several times already, but China has extended their purchase tax breaks for 4 years. So they have been doing this on a regular basis. And this is just another thing that they've started to make sure, solidify that this tax break that they've been doing for a long time is going to continue again. So NEVs are everything that includes pure electric vehicles, fuel cell vehicles, and the plug-in hybrids also. So for every one of those, and you can see here that if you purchase NAV between 2024 to end of 2025, the tax subtraction will be about the equivalent of $4,000 in the US dollars per passenger vehicle. And if you buy it in 2026 to 2027, it's going to be less. Looks like half of it. It'll be half the price, 2,000 vehicles. So they're definitely motivating you to buy now rather than waiting. So yeah, you and I have been talking about this. How big of a deal is this that they're continue to do this?
It's great. It's a bigger help for the domestic brands than it is for Tesla. Tesla is still leading, despite there being more and more compelling options, many of them at lower prices. But this is great because China takes the carrot and the stick approach, and they will penalize you a bit for getting a gas car, but they'll also motivate you to get an electric car. This is, to us, no news. We've been, like you said, we've been talking about this for months. We knew it was coming. I didn't know it was going to extend quite that far out, which is great. And I don't know if they'll renew it at that point or if there'll be no need. But I think what we'll see is the prices normalizing a bit in China, where we'll find what the actual long-term cost of an EV drivetrain is to build, because they are still getting cheaper. And that's going to be a big help.
It's a good point that you just made. Folks who are watching may not know this, but there's both a carrot and a stick. So what we've seen here, which is we're seeing many countries doing this, where they're motivating and giving you tax incentives for electric vehicles. But in China, they put in very strict rules or new requirements for the ICE gas cars that was actually expiring, and they had to, I think, extend it in the first quarter of this year. And so temporarily, in the first half of this year, we saw spikes in sales or price reductions in the ICE cars. Many car companies and used cars are trying to sell it, get it off their books, because they know that this new requirements, they can't meet it. And so they just want to get it off. And so this is really the big transition where you're just not going to be motivated to sell a gas car anymore, and you're truly motivated to buy an ICE car. We're going to see similar deals happening here in the US and Europe, because they will probably follow along as we're seeing, right? So yeah, so that's fantastic. Okay, so another big giant news. There's so many great news with you, Brian. Love you so much. So we know that Supercharger deals with GM and Ford were big deals. Now we're seeing all of the other charging companies falling in line today we saw Rivian say we signed an agreement with Tesla to adopt an NACS standard. So now all Rivian vehicles can do this starting as soon as 2024. That's what a Rivian looks like. And then Lexus, they are saying that they're considering it now. They're thinking about it. But it's funny that we've also heard yesterday that was at Mercedes, Stellantis, and Volkswagen. I think they're saying they're still thinking about it. They're still thinking about it. And then the other big news is that Texas is now, I guess, signing a law requiring Tesla's NAC connector on charging stations in the state. So it says here, the decision by Ford, GM, and now Rivian to adopt NACS changed requirements for phase 1 of the rollout. So the Texas Department of Transportation sent an email to Reuters and Tuesday saying that it would now require direct current fast chargers to have one CCS and one NACS connector. So this is a win for NACS, but it's also keeping CCS alive, is what they're saying. And then
well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
it would require both. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think it's necessarily keeping CCS alive. But now that I think about it, you're saying that if Electrify America wishes to build a station tomorrow, they still have to include the CCS. Yes. That's not.
Oh, but the other way around. If they now have to include the NACS.
But they were already going to. We're already there.
Electrify America has not announced that they were going to. Everyone else has, but that one.
They
so will. You're right. It's a done deal. It's an absolutely done deal. Except it's funny how you've got Lucid. They're the other one who's actually said no, right? So Lucid CEO weighs in on the Tesla NACS and then saying priority should be an ultra high voltage. I'm not going to do it unless it's ultra high voltage. So speaking to the Wall Street Journal, Lucid CEO Peter Rawlinson said that he's having reservations about adopting the NACS. Still thinking about it. And he's saying, it has to be the high voltage because he needs to be future proof, is what he's saying. Not going to read this to all of you, but basically he's saying that, what's the difference between an NACS and CCS? They're just a plastic plug, right? And it's important that it has to be future proof if we're going to incent this. I mean, obviously, when you're a tiny little company like Lucid, it doesn't really matter to you. This was a good point that was given to me. I can't remember who told me this, but it was a very important point, which is that why was Ford the very first one to do the partnership? And it's pretty straightforward. It's because they have the most electric vehicles being sold, way more than GM or any others. And so for them, as they sell more, like 200,000 vehicles being sold, electric vehicles, their customers are complaining a lot. And so they needed to move faster than these guys who are tiny little guys who, they're going to piss off just their tiny little customers. But it's kind of funny. What do you think about that?
So Lucid is irrelevant. They will be gone soon, I can assure you, because I have had an opportunity to speak with some folks at Lucid. Peter Rawlinson saying we need to future proof is hilarious. If you and I sat down and said, we're going to build a real cool go-kart, an electric go-kart, you and I would design it for speed and maybe efficiency. And then if someone came along and said, I wish to buy this from you by the thousands, we would find that we can't make it because we didn't design for failure. If it fails on you or I, or if it's got weird overheating issues, we can work around that. Lucid has a history of building race cars. They're not designed for failure. They're designed for maximizing everything. And as a result, nothing is designed for failure. So if you want to replace your front, let's say your front camera goes out, your fender camera goes out on your Tesla, service center comes out, they unlock it themselves. 20 minutes later, they're gone. 20 minutes, arrival to departure, they're done. With Lucid, you have to tow it to the service center, which may be 700 miles away. And you have to leave it with them because it's going to take 20 to 40 minutes to install and then 8 hours to recalibrate all the sensors. Now, in the Tesla, you notice I didn't even mention recalibration. It's because you hop in the car and drive and it recalibrates itself over 20 minutes. Right. And so that for a camera replacement, and I've got a video coming up about this, but there are far more catastrophic examples of their inability to think about the future, and it's why they are in trouble. So what Peter Rawlinson thinks, who cares?
Yeah. It's positioning. All right. So other big news, lots of great big news that's happening for Tesla. So Cars.com came out with their kind of their measurement of which cars are the most American made in 2023. Model Y is the top, of course. And this was a nice table that showed this is where the Model 3s are made, and the Model S's, and Model X's, and Model Y's. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 in the list because they're all 100% made in Fremont, California. Then you've got Acura, and you got, what's it next? This 5 is Honda Passport in Lincoln, and then Alabama. Then you've got Honda Ridgeline, Honda Odyssey, Volkswagen, Acura, and Acura. So notice that only one here is Volkswagen. That is not this. So here's the list. Top 4 are Teslas. Then you got Honda, Volkswagen, Honda, Acura, Honda, and Acura.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. It's pretty fun. You'll see, when I was in Michigan, I got to hear stories, more than one, of the young guy working at the union shop getting angry because how dare you bring your Mercedes in this union lot? And the guy says, my Mercedes was built at a union plant in Alabama. Your Ford was built in Mexico at a non-union shop. Or maybe it is union, but it's certainly not American made at that point. So yeah, where the company is from and where the car is from can be two very different things. The best-selling Chinese EV in the world is a Model 3, a Tesla Model 3. So yeah, localization is a huge advantage when it comes to something as heavy as a car.
I don't think people understand this, know this, and I think they cannot ever figure this out, that Ford and GM are not made in the U.S. They're not U.S.-made cars anymore.
They are. There's still factories that make them. I've been to a few of them, but they're increasingly not so. Your Cadillac is probably, depending on the model, it might be made in Germany. And your Mercedes might be made in the US. But yeah, and having a piece of tech like this, which is now the cost leader in the EV space, is amazing that you can build it in places as expensive as Fremont, California.
Exactly. It's bringing manufacturing back into the US. And so why isn't the government, US government, just, supporting, applauding this? This is a big deal, manufacturing back in the US. And once Tesla starts doing robots, the US is going to be the center for the economy for the world, and manufacturing productivity. It's going to be crazy.
It absolutely is. But the early versions of the new EV incentives were written in such a way that they were protectionist for the legacy companies. And we saw that a lot of elements of them had to fall out because they were illegal under international trade laws. And in the end, regardless of what they meant to do with the bill, it benefits Tesla more than anyone else, because there is not another legacy car company that makes their own batteries. That's $3,500 or $35 a kilowatt. So that's on a Model S. If they were to be making their own batteries for that, we're talking a $3,500 rebate on the battery alone, just for the manufacturer. And if they could get it back down, if they could get the price low enough again, which they may, depending on with how many price cuts we've seen, who knows? There could be 10 grand in incentives. Certainly will be, if you count both sides of the Cybertruck. Cybertruck, how big is the battery going to be? At least 100. That's $3,500 because the batteries are made in Texas. Another $7,500 if it can stay under $80,000. And then your state incentives. In total, there could be 15, 20 grand in discount going to someone to build and sell a Cybertruck. Great.
Yeah. People are forgetting about the state incentives. They're massive. It's impressive. All right. So another news was Stellantis said that they're going to release a $25,000 electric vehicle in 2024. Okay, that sounds pretty soon. That's not that far away, but we've heard many of these companies making statements like this that don't turn out to be right. But it looks like that they need to say something because of the same time as the Volvo EX30 and the Volkswagen ID2, because those guys are also under kind of under 30,000, including Tesla's 25,000 vehicle launch. So this is Citroen brand. It's what they're thinking of doing, the EC3, to compete specifically against the China-made Dacia Spring and the Renault The main objective is to cater to the needs of mass market customers and steer them away from affordable Chinese-made vehicles. So again, they need to do this. Citroen brand.
So do you want to hear my hot take? They're going to do it, and it's going to work. They're going to do it, and it's going to work. They can absolutely do it. The saving grace that Stellantis has is all these European brands who have already been building electric cars. Fiat makes an electric car. Yeah, they're already working in that direction in Europe, and it's going. They will rely, just as Hyundai builds cars in America that are designed in Korea. Stellantis can build cars in America that were designed in Europe, and that's what they're going to have to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've done quite a bit of deep dives in every single car company. If folks you haven't seen, you got to go to MyTeslaWeekend and YouTube channel. He's got full analysis. He knows what's going on. Another thing that Brian is very, very smart about is all the gigafactories. So you're going to be interesting to hear what you think, what happened when Elon met with the Indian Prime Minister. Let's go ahead and watch what happened, what he said about
timing. In a nutshell, it was a fantastic meeting with the Prime Minister, and I like him quite a lot. He visited our Fremont factory several years ago, and so we've now known each other for a while.
So how do you see Prime Minister Modi's leadership role as far as making technology inclusive so that digital infrastructure can be created?
I can say he really wants to do the right thing for India. He wants to be open, he wants to be supportive of new companies, and obviously, but at the same time, make sure it accrues to India's advantage, which is, obviously, that's the job. I'm saying I am a fan of Modi, so I have to say that.
Well, he's been doing a world tour, but this one, he's met so many world leaders, but this one seemed a little bit more very much, I mean, did he say nicer things about Modi than he did about the France Macron? Or what did you read into that?
I read nothing nefarious out of it. He had a good meeting and it went well. The obstacle in India has been leadership from the highest levels, and this is greasing those wheels. So if they can, it looks like the sticking point right now is, can we, okay, fine, you won't let us import cars with a reasonable import tariff. Right now it's 100% for basic cars and like 130 to 180% tax for more expensive cars. If we can we at least bring parts in to finish the cars while we're getting our domestic supply up? And Modi's the guy who can make it happen. So this would be getting into France. It doesn't matter how much Macron likes you. It won't matter. He doesn't have the pull that someone like Modi does. So I think this is very good news. I don't know if that means that it's going to be the next factory announced, but it could be. And you know me, I've been saying that for a year.
We heard him say that he's going to visit India next year. So I think there's, people are going, oh, this is going to be a major announcement very, very soon. That's not what I'm getting, even for France, that you just going around making deals. It's going to happen, but it won't happen right away. Do you think that's true? Or do you think is it going to happen right away?
I agree with you entirely. I don't think they're far enough along for it to happen immediately, but it wouldn't surprise me. If the land is flat and ready to go, they would just carbon copy Giga Nueva Leon and build it there. So, and they want the money, they want the investment. A lot of pushback I've seen in my comments is people saying, you don't understand how corrupt India is. And that's, everywhere has corruption. It's on a scale. But if you've got the support from the highest levels, the corruption tends to go away. If you've got someone local who says, I need my bribe, and you just call Modi and say, yeah, this guy's trying to strong arm us, that goes away. That gets taken care of. So there were a lot of concerns about China as well. Is the corruption going to be a problem there? Again, you've got support from the highest levels. This is our golden goose. You don't mess with them.
Yep. If we have time, we'll talk about comments about Giga India, looking at the future, why that's important. But let's move on to some big news as well. This is oops. What am I doing here? Here we go. So these deals are being signed left, right, and center. And it doesn't feel like the media is making a big deal about it. But here's yet another massive energy storage deal with is it Australia? 219 megawatt storage system. So it looks like this company called Neon, and it's going to build a 219 megawatt 4-hour battery energy system in Western Australia near the coal town of Collie. 224 2XL megapacks. That's pretty big. Now, they don't talk about the size of that deal, but apparently it's big enough that the last time something like this happened, and this is even bigger than the last deal that they did, it was something that was pretty significant, adding to Neon's profit, or their profits was reported to be high. It's Neon's first battery project that could support a 4-hour long duration. It currently operates 5 other BESS projects in Australia. This is the largest. And then what else did they say? Something about this, which is like it's called the solar duck. It describes the energy usage that people put on the grid through daily tasks. And so I think that this is how it's going to do, kind of like right system load, make sure that when it's a peak time, they'll have enough to support it.
That's right. Yeah. And I thought we'd seen that this deal was $390 million, which would mean they are getting a discount off retail price.
Mm-hmm.
Had you not seen that? I thought it was $390 million. Someone in the comments can fact check us on that. But these are the reason we're not seeing it in the media is because this isn't a sexy story. It's not exciting. They don't cover power plants. They don't cover infrastructure. They'll only cover a bridge if it's beautiful or made by some exciting designer. Even though bridges and railroads and power lines are critical for our everyday life, they're just not fun to talk about. But the analysts are starting to notice, and increasingly they are factoring in the energy sector, the stationary storage element in Tesla's business model. And it's already gotten to the point where it's too big to ignore. So this is another big one. We knew that there was a huge backlog for these for megapacks. I wonder if this means that they're jumping the line, or does it mean that they're increasing capacity? Because to me, what it means is the backlog was already too long. So over 2 years, that's too long. And now with a need for, this is like a week or two of production, that's a big, big deal. That would mean, I think, that we're going to see an acceleration on the front, an urgency in building the next megapack factory.
Well, Brian, what have you heard about the megapack factory that was announced in Shanghai? Do you know anything about it? Has it been finally, are they breaking ground? Is it moving along?
There is no news. It is still my belief that it would go into the land adjacent to the factory, which Matthew was able to get Tom to admit they have an option on. They could exercise an option and take over that land adjacent to it, just to the east. And but nothing has happened there. They did clear out the old offices that were there, the construction offices, and removed all the concrete and leveled it and graded it, but they haven't done anything. So if that is where it's going, and I believe it is, we'll see it as soon as it happens, because the drones are still flying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're going to be the first to report it to us. So this is an interesting conversation that I specifically wanted to have with you. Larry Goldberg, I've interviewed him. Very, very smart investor in Tesla. So he was on a Twitter Spaces, and he wanted to talk about two of the discussions. One is about Giga Mexico, and the other one's about India market, right? So his comments about Giga Mexico is that, is Giga Mexico solely built for shipping to Latin America market only? And several on the broadcast was agreeing with Warren that it's really just for Latin America. And Larry's saying, no, that's not true. He went and researched and all the Q&A from all the earnings calls, as well as Investors Day and shareholders meeting, and he couldn't find any reference to say that Giga Mexico is just for Latin America. It makes no sense at all. He says the whole point of building a factory in Mexico, it's close to the U.S. border. It's going to supply the U.S. market just like it has all the time. Latin American market is only less than 25% of the U.S. market. The EV segment is even smaller. So it'd be weird if Giga Mexico trying to sell 1 million vehicles per year, that would be 25% of the Latin American market. That's not credible. And then, just that because it's so close, as you've been pointing out, Giga Mexico Nuevo Leon is so close to road and rail transport. It's a port. There's a reason why they're doing that. What's your opinion on that debate?
I agree completely. That's just how car factories are made. Why would you? The only reason you would not sell the $25,000 car in the US is if it doesn't meet safety standards. Well, Tesla will make sure every Tesla is going to meet safety standards, no matter where they sell it. Or if there was some kind of prohibitive import situation that would prevent it, like the way Chinese cars struggle to get into the US because the 28% import tariff is too steep to still make a profit. So no, they would probably start by selling, dual motor performance, extremely, $50,000 versions of a $25,000 car in the US market. But I think they would want to at least get those out into Latin America first to preserve sales of the Model 3. Now, the Model 3 Highland is coming imminently, which you and I will be talking about today at noon on my channel, because I know how you guys are. You need us at noon. So we'll be back at noon, but on my channel to talk about the Model 3 is coming. It is coming imminently. I have seen parts. They are real. And we'll discuss why that, and what that'll do is allow the Model 3 to get a little bit less expensive. So the gap between it and the compact is not so significant, while still offering a different car that you might like more. So yeah, I agree entirely with him. He's saying it will sell everywhere. And of course it will. Yeah. Just like we thought the Model 3. Yeah, we thought the Giga Shanghai Model 3 would only be sold in China or maybe parts of Asia. No, it's a great seller in Europe because it's a great car. So I think.
What do you think about this comment here from Jambe? Mexico also has trade agreements with countries U.S. doesn't.
That's right. That? Yes, I do. The U.S. has something like, I don't know, 43 or some number. I used to have it on the top of my head. But Mexico has like 84 trade agreements around the world. You can get a Mexican car into countries with no import tax that the U.S. cannot. And it's because Mexico is scrappy. They've made... they don't throw their weight around the way we do, where we say it's my way or the highway. Mexico is just trying to find partnerships all over the world. And there's a lot of countries that don't like the U.S. and wouldn't necessarily offer the same kind of deals, in part because they're afraid that the U.S. might come in and just steamroll them. And that's a real thing that's really happened. So I can see why they would feel that way. And so, yeah, they will have access to markets because it's made in Mexico that the U.S. would not. That's absolutely true. Okay.
So we know that Giga Mexico is going to create the Model 3, the compact car. And so that's what makes a ton of sense about Giga India as well. So this is the conversation that we were following with Larry Goldberg. The second thing that many of the Tesla bulls are saying is that they think that the Indian vehicle market is too small for Tesla. It's mainly focused on the tiny cars and the three-wheelers. The view is certainly correct in the rear view mirror. But the Indian market is growing very dramatically, he says, will likely grow faster than any market, even China in the coming decade. And currently, India is the third largest auto market in the world, having recently eclipsed Japan. It's likely going to become the world's largest within 2 decades. And then they've got new freeways, middle-class emergence, standard-sized cars are the key drivers of that growth. So he believes that you got to look forward, that India is going to be a great place to build, and especially if you have the compact car. So I'm not sure why people are saying that they don't think that India is going to be a good market. What do you think, Brian?
India is going to be huge. India today is what China was 20, 25 years ago, probably 20 years ago. And if you'd have said 20 years ago that China's going to have the biggest car market and the best cars, people would have struggled to believe you. India, if Tesla gets in there, and they're among the first to do so, if they're producing in, say, 2 or 3 years from now, they will become the electric car name in India. They'll definitely have NACS, an advantage there, where that may become the charging standard in India as well. But regardless of what they use, they would know what they're doing from the get-go, so there wouldn't hopefully be a charger war, and the sales would be astronomical. Well, people in India can't afford a $70,000 car, right? But at $25,000, the market is vastly bigger. There are a lot of cars sold in that price range. And then you factor in the savings from electricity. If you can go back vehicle to grid, then you can power your home during rolling blackouts, which in many places are still a thing. That's something that could be a competitive advantage. And with LFP batteries, they would have the ability to do that without seriously degrading the battery and shortening the vehicle's life. And then you've got just the fact that they would be the name. So with all those rich people, their top 2% is 10 million people, 20 million people.
Exactly.
So they're massive. 20 million potential buyers in the top 2%. It's going to be huge. Yeah. And I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm in too. Okay, so for people who are just dialing in here, we're talking about the big news is that Tesla is in the process of buying Wiferion. I've got another question to you, Brian, about NACS regarding this. So let's go back and visit this just to keep people aware of what happened. There was an article written yesterday in Germany saying secret exit. Is Tesla buying this startup? Wiferion is a wireless charging for both electric vehicles and robots. That's what it could look like. You can just drive up to it. You don't need to plug in anything at all. And you can start charging. As they say, within 1 second, it'll start. And it says here that this emerges from a record in the commercial register where it says the shareholders intend to sell their shares in a company to Tesla International by means of a purchase agreement. And also confirmed that with another source who told me that this is a done deal, that Tesla has bought this company, Wiferion. So it's, that's what we're talking about today. It sounds like there's a lot of news that has happened. And then to talk about what it could potentially mean. So, when you look at something like this, what does this mean for the NACS standard or CCS standard? Does that now not just kind of like get rid of all this discussion about all these partnerships? Obviously the companies will still need to partner with Tesla because they're the ones buying this. And that's the other conversation I want to have with you. With Tesla buying Wiferion, that takes them off the market. Now, no, I don't know whether there's a competitor to wireless charging who's so much farther ahead than these guys. So it's like, can another car company or pod company even do this?
Yes, instantly and easily, but not as well. If Wiferion's really at 93%, while others are at 80 to 90%, that is something. GM put a 227 kilowatt hour battery in their Hummer just so that they could get it to move. A lack of efficiency has never been something to hold back the companies best known for making monster V8s.
Yeah. What do you think about the NACS partnership thing? Does that change any of that?
No, I don't think it does. Even if Tesla were to say, by the way, at this new station, 3 of the stalls are wireless only, you could, if the network is set up to handle both vehicles, it'll handle both vehicles, and Tesla will take their little cut either way and still get the data either way.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you, Brian. Great discussion. We covered a lot. There's so many amazing news that happened for Tesla. This is a big one, I think. And of course, the partnerships that's continue to expand. I think we're going to continue seeing growth in the stock. So thanks, everybody. Thank you again. Please tune in today at 12 noon Pacific time. We're going to be at Brian's channel, My Tesla Weekend, and we're going to talk about the Model 3. He's got new information that he got because he just came back from Detroit, and he actually saw real parts, proving to see whether or not the revised Model 3 is real or not. There's been discussions among the group here, and most of us think it's real, but tune in at that point. Thanks, everybody. See you, Brian.